Hi guys, it's Sophie. Welcome back to Spin a Good Yarn. This is a fibre arts podcast where we talk about knitting and spinning mostly, sometimes some sewing, sometimes some cross stitch, and also like fibre prep, fleece prep I've got into this year as well. So if any of that sounds like something you're interested in, welcome. And yeah, this is my video talking about all the stuff I spun in Tour de Fleece 2026.
Hello, Editing Sophie here. Throughout this video, you can definitely hear my son crying. If that's going to bother you, this probably isn't the one to watch. We have just moved into our new house and he has turned 2 only a few months ago and is so excited to be in his new house. He doesn't want to sleep, like full stop. So yeah, his daddy was up there with him, settling him and stuff. But you can hear him. So if hearing children in the background of videos is going to upset you, yeah, scroll on. I'll see you in another one.
So I had such a good tour this year. I just really enjoyed it and I felt like I spun so much this year. I think partly that was because we were staying with my mum and it meant that we didn't have to clean our house, we didn't have to look after our garden, so our free time is just our free time. I also think it's partly because of this girl. This is my Kromsky Fantasia and I love her. I think she's gorgeous and she was a new wheel to me just before the tour started. I think I spun one skein up on her before I actually started spinning for the tour just to check that I kind of knew how she worked. But yeah, she's been so much fun to spin on and to learn about whilst this tour's been going on, and I think that's been partly why I've been able to spin as much as I have. So the first yarn type I have, I'm going to show you more skeins than I spun because this was actually my sweater spin. We're going to have a lot of skeins coming out. This was my sweater spin for this year's Tour de Fleece. This is all of the wool that I have. Let's turn it to the side. So this is 900 grams of a Shetland Cross Romney fleece that I processed this year. I'll put in some B-roll so that you can see some of the skeins up close. This is a 3-ply semi-worsted spun yarn. I brushed out the locks, flick carded them, then drum carded them, and then spun it worsted style. But I did align all the locks going into the carder because I had flick carded all of them. I kind of had them easily to kind of line up. So yeah, semi-worsted. And this is to knit my Dagmar zipper jacket, fingers crossed, in the size medium. I'm really hoping I have enough. I am like skirting on the edge of enough. I have done some swatching and I have kept my swatches and I think we're going to be okay. So this is my main spin of the tour. I didn't spin, let's have a look. I didn't spin all of these. I spun 4 and if memory serves me right, I had one big chunky one. I don't know if these are the exact skeins I spun. Oh no, sorry, I did spin 5. So let's just say it's these. I did weigh them all out, but I can't recall them all. So I spun about this much. I know I spun this little leftover one was my last bit of wool and I had the other smaller one together, but I don't know which of the 3 large ones I had. I just know it was 3 large ones. So about this much wool, which I'm so happy with, and I think part of why I was able to do so much was I really wanted to get this all spun within a similar time frame, and I'd just spun the other half of this fleece before Tour de Fleece started, and I really wanted to get as consistent between the skeins as I can. Obviously this is hand spun, it's never going to be consistent like commercial yarn is, but I think I did a pretty good job. So that was my main spin and I feel so good to have finished that off. I bought the fleece, well I got the fleece on the 1st of May, so yeah, to be done before the end of July, from prepping the fibre, washing it, everything, all the way through to having spun it, feels really cool. And I'm planning on knitting the Dagmar in September or October of this year, so perfect timing, and I think the light grey will look beautiful. I think then I'll show you my other neutral coloured spin of the tour before we go into like some more colourful areas. So the other neutral that I spun up was this little skein here. This is Gotland. The sheep it came from was called Pip, and this is another 3-ply. I did end up with a tiny little nubbin of a 2-ply left over at the end, but I just didn't feel like I could throw that one away. But I'm pretty happy with this spin. Again, these were spun on my, I call her Katie, these were spun on Katie. The sweater spin, sorry if you can hear my son, my sweater spin was all spun on my e-spinner because I didn't have my e-spinner when that started. But yeah, so this one is my Gotland, and I'm really happy with how this one came out. It has a really nice little halo to it. I had a mixed bag. I would say it's not my favourite thing to spin, but I think I spun it up nicely. So yeah, it's one of those that I might try it again if it came dyed, but I don't think I love it enough just to spin it raw. There are certain fleeces or certain breeds, sorry, I think I'm finding I enjoy more than others. And yeah, I'll have popped some B-roll in for these again for you. And then the other spins I had were more colourful and much more snacky. So the first one I spun up was this one here. I will need to show you in the light. In fact, I might show all of you these in the light. This was a mix of two different cat and sparrow bumps, and I'm pretty sure I got 50 grams of each, and so this is a 100-gram skein, I think. One was in the colour Northern Lights and one was in the colour Careless Whisper, and I applied the two together. So this came out as just this, like, I love this skein. It's one of my favourite skeins I've ever hand spun. This just like gorgeous, chaotic, lovely thing. And Cat and Sparrow was a new dye to me. I picked them up from one of the festivals I went to just before the tour, actually. I think it was in May. Yeah, May. So it was really nice to get to spin them up, and I've actually spun more of their fibres since that I bought, having enjoyed spinning this one up so much. This was both in the same camp. I'm not sure what she calls the like base, the fibre blend, but they're all from Devon. 50% is BFL, 30% is Exmoor Blueface, and 20% is Wensleydale. And I really loved the fibre combination as well. This one isn't as even as my other spins. It's a 2-ply, so that's probably why. But I just think the colours are so fun. I think this is one of my favourite spins of the whole tour. I then have this one, which you're totally not going to be able to see up close, so we'll definitely rely on some B-roll here. But this is such a moody skein. I don't know what the colourway of this one is. In fact, I'm not sure if it has a colourway. It's by the dyer in a Fleece, and I saw this one at the Great British Fibre Festival and just really thought it would be like swampy and beautiful. And yeah, I think very different vibes to the Cat and Sparrow, despite them being like similar-ish colour stories. This one is definitely bright and optimistic, and this one is definitely like a witchy era. But I think this one might be a nice one to hold with like a solid colour, maybe even a commercially dyed colour, and have this be the colour work. I think that could work really nicely to draw out some of these colours, because together they are quite subtle because it's such a dark and moody scheme. Then I finished up this little one, again just as a 2-ply. I had used some of this fibre, which is by Nellie and Eve, and it is in the colourway Bird's Egg. Yes, Bird's Egg. It's 100% Welsh Mule, which was a new fibre to me, and I really enjoyed spinning it actually. It's not terribly soft, but not terribly rustic either. It's somewhere in the middle, I would say. But it spun really nicely. It was a very like intuitive spin. It feels like it would be a good kind of beginner spin. But as I said, it wasn't a fibre I was familiar with. And yeah, this one was like a super quick spin. And I didn't intend for it to be super consistent. That wasn't the aim. I just wanted to spin this one up, enjoy it. And I did. I spun it up in one evening and just had it done, and it was lovely. And I'm really glad to have this one in my stash. I think it actually pairs quite nicely with the Cat and Sparrow together. So I think they look kind of pretty. So it might be that I work something together with these two. And then the very last skein I spun is this one. And this is probably the spin I enjoyed least, but my most chaotic spin of the tour. I intentionally tried to spin this one thick, and I spun this, I think it was a 4-ply. Yeah, this is a 4-ply. So I intentionally spun it thick, I spun it nappy, and I then plied it 4-ply. This was some Rolags that I picked up from my Spinners and Weavers Guild local fleece fair. And these were little Rolag nests, which had a range of different fibres in them, mostly merino, with lots of really thick sari silk pieces. Some of them were not entirely stripped down back to thread form from their fabric form, which was an interesting spinning experience. And I think I find spinning with silk to be harder on my hands, because the silk will draft out at a different rate than the wool, and you have to kind of play with it, or I have to kind of play with it so I don't end up with just like all the silk just sitting there on top and actually building it in. But I think this was a fun spin to have done. I don't know how I feel about it overall. Like, it's not my favourite. I think there's others that are my favourite from the tour, but it's definitely a very intriguing spin. And I'm not sure what this one is destined to become. It's very dense because I spun it 4-ply, and I also spun it bulky. So yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what this will end up being, but it's an interesting one nevertheless. And then the last thing that I've spun hasn't made its way into skein form yet, but still in my spinning basket. And this was the Cat and Sparrow that I mentioned. So the colourways, there's one called Cupcake, which is this one here, this kind of purpley pink, and I've got 2 bobbins of that. I'll put you both together. Put my basket down a moment. So these 2 are Cupcake, and those are 2 different braids that I spun up. She just does 50 grams, which I actually love. I think this would be so cool for a sweater combo spin. I think that's my plan at some point. Not with these particulars, but with Cat and Sparrow as a dyer. And then these ones here were called Iridescence, and they were on different bases actually. So Cupcake was on Romney, Iridescence was on Polworth. And I'll just show you how they look together. Not the easiest thing in the world, but there you go. There's what the 4 bobbins look like together. And I have one more fibre that I'm having dyed to order. And I'm going to do these as a 3-ply with the other colour. Dropped one. To spin up a jaunty. So these are 2 of the 3 plies, and I will have a 3rd ply add in too. So I feel like I actually spun like so much this tour. Lots of purples. I feel like I'm in a bit of a purple bluey kick at the moment. And it was honestly so fun. I definitely think my spins this year are of a higher quality yarn. Like, not like the yarn is a more luxury blend, but the yarn I have made is more usable for almost all of them. So the ones that are not consistent are less were intended to be consistent and then have become something else. There's definitely a more consistent ply angle, like a twist angle to these throughout. They're definitely more balanced. So I think they're technically better spins than I've spun before. I did spin all of the colourful ones, as I mentioned, on my new wheel, so there was a bit of a learning curve there. And I spun it all on the same whirl setting, so I'm interested for my next spin after my jaunty spin, just to be playing around. I have 2 whirls I bought to go with this wheel, so just want to try those out and see how I find it spinning finer, because this is the thickest whirl setting that I use just to get used to the wheel, and she's fast, so I thought I'll just start slow and build my way up through the whirl settings. But I had a really fun time. I didn't end up doing any spindle spinning, partly because I really struggled to get the handle on the supported spindle I have. I haven't yet found a flow state with it, and my drop spindles were all in storage from when we moved. We have now moved, which is lovely, so I might find myself doing a bit more spindle spinning. But I've had such a fun tour. And I did actually spin up my entire fibre stash again. I did that last year. I think it's going to become a bit of a, I guess, like personal challenge of the tour to spin up my fibre stash to 0. I literally have nothing more I can spin. Well, she says. I have 3 fleeces, so I have some work to do before I get something I can spin. But there's nothing spinnable in my house as of today, which is actually super exciting. I do also need to buy some more bobbins for my Kromsky, so I have 1 further bobbin here, but I have more on order. So the fibre that I have, the fleece that I have that I need to turn into spinnable fibre, I want to spin on Kate, so I need to wait anyway. So yeah, it feels really nice. It felt really nice last July to have just completely wiped the slate clean, to have spun everything in my stash, and to just really dove back into spinning head first. I'd love to know in the comments down below if you took part in Tour de Fleece this year, and if you did, let me know what your favourite spin was. If you're from the UK, let me know what your favourite fibre dyes in the UK to spin up are, because I love buying hand-dyed fibre, but I I struggle sometimes to find fibres that I really love. I think Google is not a friend to hand-dyed fibre artists. It's much harder than it is to find yarn, I think. So yeah, leave any recommendations down below, and I'll see you guys again soon in my next video. Bye!